Hey everyone! When watching the best players in the world, it can be hard to see all the small things they do that separate them from everybody else. The mechanics are easy to notice, but as we all know, not everyone can be blessed with those mechanics. So today, we're going to break down 2 of the many things Faker does that makes him so insane in laning phase that you can do as well. You don't need any crazy mechanics for these tips and tricks, and the concepts will apply to any champion. So let's get started. The first thing that Faker does that you definitely don't do is he always plays for the wave. What I mean by that is, his first priority is wave control in CS. This sounds like it should be a given, but nobody in low elo actually thinks about how to control the wave in different scenarios, and it's extremely important. If you go to Faker's OPGG, he always has very high CS. Good wave control and trading patterns contribute to that massively. We'll go over the trading in a bit, but for now, let's get into some gameplay to see a few examples of what I'm talking about. Faker has been spamming Renekton, so let's look at 2 different Renekton games here and how he plays levels 1 to 3 differently as he has different plans for the matchup. In this first one, he's playing Renekton vs Aatrox. For the first wave, he hard shoves it using Renekton's strong level 1 push and clears the entire thing before the next wave gets here. Let's quickly test your knowledge though. Because he hard shoved the first wave and it hits the tower as the next wave is arriving, what will the wave do now? So, because the next wave is going to stop and hit these blue minions on the tower for a few seconds, the next waves won't meet in the middle, but instead, closer to Aatrox's tower. They will be even as well, so because of the even minion rule, it will slow push to Faker. We'll go over why this is important in a little bit. The other thing this enables him to do is, he can put a ward at the enemy raptors to see where enemy Lilia started, and as he puts it down, he spots her. The best time to drop wards is after shoving a wave, as you don't miss any CS, and the enemy laner can't stop you. Imagine if the wave is in the middle of the lane and Faker tries to put a ward at the enemy raptors. It just wouldn't work. Alright, so now the wave will slowly push back to Faker, and he sees Lilia trying to gank mid, so he backs off a bit. Lilia is going to walk through mid, so now Faker is safe to walk up to the wave again. Now, let's stop here. Do you see this one red minion Aatrox is standing near? Faker knows Aatrox is going to contest him for that, but he isn't going to just give it up. And the reason for that is, he has his abilities up. If his abilities were on cooldown, he would give it. So, he walks up on the CS as it gets low, dashes in with E to avoid Aatrox's sweet spots, grabs the CS and trades at the same time, then dashes out. This is another example of how Faker plays for the wave. He doesn't just randomly trade with Aatrox. He prioritizes the CS, then trades back when being contested in situations like these. This makes it so he's more likely to have his abilities for these situations. If he's using his abilities to trade constantly, he wouldn't have them and it could be much more dangerous to grab CS. Alright, as we move on, this is where the very smart wave control is going to come into play. If you don't know, Renekton gets a lot of health if he uses Q with 50 Fury and hits a lot of minions or champions. So by getting the wave to slow push back to him, it lets him go for trades like these. So he got a huge heal there, then disengaged entirely with E to avoid any return damage from Aatrox. So the wave is pushing to him and he has a huge health advantage, which puts Aatrox in a very tricky spot. Does he recall with the wave pushing to Faker and lose a ton of the CS? This alone would lose him the lane, and high elo players will do everything they can to avoid that. His other option is to really test his limits and try to get the wave crashed on Faker's tower without dying. So let's see what happens. With the wave pushing to Faker, this means Aatrox will get level 3 first. And when he does, he tries to go in and punish, but Faker knows and avoids it easily. Faker hits level 3 immediately after, and here we can start talking about the next thing Faker does that you don't do. And it's that he knows the little things add up. So for this next trade, he walks up to Aatrox and he doesn't just use his abilities. He makes sure to auto first, then cancel the auto animation with Renekton W, then autos again, and cancels that animation with Renekton Q. Not only does this give him the most optimal damage, so he's not wasting any opportunities to get auto attacks in while using his combo, but it puts him at 50 Fury for that Q, which gave him a big chunk of health from all the minions around like we talked about. So now Aatrox's situation just got a lot worse, as they are both low, but Renekton has way faster burst than Aatrox does. And the wave is pushing to Faker. He doesn't want to recall like we talked about before, so let's see what happens next. Faker's going to back off while waiting for his cooldowns, then as soon as his E is up, he dashes in, uses Q to get a lot of Fury, then uses that Fury to empower W and finish off the Aatrox. So, because he set up the wave perfectly, he won multiple trades that he otherwise wouldn't because of the big minion wave. Then also put Aatrox in a really tough spot because of it. Let's move on to the next game now to see how things change a bit. In this one, he's also on Renekton, but he's against a Victor. He's not going to hard push the wave like he did versus Aatrox because he can't. Victor would punish him hard for that with his ranged advantage. So instead, he's going to hide over this wall to avoid any kind of damage from Victor, while the first few CS get low. Victor gets close though, so he moves to the other side. Then he walks up and uses Q to grab the 2 CS and autos the third. He's going to play safe for a bit while the next CS get low, then walk up and use Q once again to grab them. Then when his Q is back up, he goes into the big wave and uses Q another time. So basically, instead of hard pushing, now he's slowly pushing. If he uses his Q enough on a lot of the minions, he will eventually get the push advantage, and he'll use that big wave to defend him so he can crash the wave. Now that he has 50 Fury and his E, he dashes in, weaves in an auto between every ability just like before, heals off the wave and Victor, then dashes out. But the beautiful part, and the thing that I'm even learning and really want to apply to my next games is, in both of these games, the way he trades while going for CS, instead of just doing one or the other, is amazing. It's very difficult in high elo to have good CS in lane if you are being contested for every one of them. I always wonder how these players have such high CS in hard matchups, because how do they not have to give up CS when they don't have cooldowns? But it's by playing like FAKER does here, planning each trade around the last hits. You can see in the last trade how he grabs CS while doing it. And he's going to do it again multiple times here, so let's keep watching. So he's going to auto these next two CS as he's safe to with the wave that he has. Then he grabs the cannon as well, and now he has 50 Fury with all of his abilities up. What he does next is what I'm talking about. Most players would just go for a trade here, including myself. He has the Fury, he has a cannon wave, he would definitely win the trade. But instead, he waits for this last hit, then waits for Victor to walk up for this minion, and for these back 3 CS to get a little low. Now he can go in and use a full combo to trade while collecting the CS at the same time. Don't get me wrong, this is very hard to do consistently because you have to know how much damage you do while knowing when it's a good time to trade, while also thinking a few steps ahead. But this is what separates players like FAKER from the others. This kind of game knowledge and trading is crazy and takes a lot of practice. But now that he doesn't have any abilities, he backs off playing a little safer until he needs to walk up for a last hit again. Then he drops a ward bot side before walking back into lane to grab last hits. Notice when he goes to drop that ward, no CS were even close to low, so he doesn't miss anything. Every minion counts, especially in Korean Challenger. He's going to get this next minion, and once again, he has a window to trade here. He has the Fury, the cooldowns, and the wave advantage. But he doesn't just jump in, or use his Q to grab these last 2 CS and crash the wave, which also would have been fine. That's the main thing, it's not that using Q to grab the last hits would be bad, it just isn't optimal. Instead, he's going to use E through the CS to grab it, while also hitting level 4 to put another point in his Q. Then empower Q the Victor, getting a nice chunk of damage along with a bunch of health. Now you should know from the previous replay, what will the wave do now that he crashed it? The wave is even and on Victor's side of the lane, so because of the even minion rule, it was slow push to FAKER. And because of his optimal trades, Victor is now in that awful spot that Aatrox was in earlier. FAKER is going to go for one more trade here, which might have turned into a kill, but the enemy Gwen is here to gank, which makes FAKER back off. But the trade was good enough that Victor doesn't feel safe enough to walk up anymore and needs to recall, so FAKER can win the lane just from that. Alright guys, I learned a lot making this video, so I would hope you guys learned and enjoyed it as well. By the way, you should know where our guides come from. Our hyper improvement platform SkillCapped is the #1 place to actually start improving at League of Legends. You can input your rank before signing up to see where we'll think you'll climb to. Then, if you don't hit that rank while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a full refund. That's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. We offer this because our services really do work. And if it doesn't, then you shouldn't pay for it. Check us out right after this. But that's going to bring us to the end of this one, and I'll see you next time.